Welcome back to Easy English Talk Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Easy English Talk Podcast. Priya, hey, how are you doing today? How has your day been so far?
Ryan, honestly, it has been one of those days where everything feels a little rushed. But I am here now, and I feel good. How about you?
I totally understand that feeling. My morning was a bit busy too, but sitting down for this conversation always helps me reset. It's one of my favorite parts of the day.
Same here. There's something really calming about just talking through important topics. It feels grounding, you know?
It really does. And speaking of grounding, hello to everyone listening and watching right now. We are so happy you are here with us today.
Yes, welcome, welcome. Wherever you are in the world, we are glad you chose to spend this time with us. It genuinely means a lot.
We always love knowing where our listeners are tuning in from. Are you listening from your car, your kitchen, maybe a quiet corner of your office? Drop a comment and let us know your city or country.
Yes, please do. We read those comments, and it always makes us smile to see how far this little podcast has traveled around the world.
And while you're there in the comments, we would love to hear something else from you. Is this podcast helping you improve your English? Are you noticing a difference in how you understand or speak?
That is such an important question. We created Easy English Talk Podcast because we believe learning English should feel natural, not stressful. Your feedback helps us know if we are doing that well.
So please share your thoughts. Even a short comment makes a big difference for us. Now, today, we are discussing how to manage stress before it manages you.
Oh, this is such a real topic. I think almost every person listening right now has felt stress at some point recently. It's everywhere these days.
Exactly. And here's why this episode matters so much. By the end of this conversation, you will not only understand stress better, but you will also have practical tools you can start using today.
That is right. We're not going to give you a long list of complicated advice. We are going to talk about this like real people who actually deal with stress in real life.
So if you've ever felt like stress is running your day instead of you running your day, then this episode is exactly what you need. Stay with us because this conversation could genuinely change something for you.
And even if your English is still developing, do not worry. We speak slowly and clearly on purpose, so every word is easy to follow and understand.
All right, let's get into it. Before we talk about solutions, let's first understand the problem. Priya, what actually is stress? Because I think people use that word all the time, but not everyone really understands what it means.
That's such a great starting point. Stress is basically your body's response to pressure or demand. When your brain senses a challenge or a threat, it sends signals that put your body on alert.
So it is almost like your body is trying to protect you, like an alarm system going off inside you.
Exactly. And that alarm system is actually very useful in small amounts. If you have a deadline or something important to finish, a little stress pushes you to focus and work harder.
Right, so stress is not always the enemy. But I think the problem starts when that alarm never turns off, when it becomes your normal state.
Yes, that is exactly where things go wrong. When stress becomes constant, it stops being helpful and starts doing damage. It affects your sleep, your thinking, your mood, and even your physical health.
So the difference between healthy stress and harmful stress is really about how long it lasts. Short-term stress can motivate you, but long-term stress slowly wears you down.
Perfectly said. And what makes it even more complicated is that many people do not even realize they are chronically stressed. It just becomes their normal way of feeling.
That is so true. I've spoken to people who say things like, "I've always been like this," but what they are describing is actually years of unmanaged stress.
And the body keeps a record of all of that. You might feel it as headaches, tight shoulders, trouble sleeping, or even just feeling tired all the time for no clear reason.
Let us talk about where stress actually comes from in modern life, because I think understanding the source helps people feel less confused about why they feel the way they do.
Absolutely. The most common source of stress today is work. Deadlines, performance pressure, difficult relationships at work, fear of losing your job. These things create enormous amounts of stress for millions of people.
And it's interesting, because work stress doesn't stay at work. You come home, but your mind is still at the office. You are physically present, but mentally still dealing with problems.
That's called mental carryover, and it's one of the biggest reasons people feel exhausted even on their days off. The stress follows them everywhere they go.
Then there is financial stress, which is something so many people relate to. Worrying about money, bills, savings, future security.
That kind of stress is very deep and very heavy.
Financial stress is unique because it often feels like it has no solution. You wake up thinking about money, you go to sleep thinking about money, and it creates this constant background noise in your mind.
And then there is relationship stress. Conflicts with partners, family tension, friendships that feel draining. These are all real and significant sources of stress in everyday life.
People sometimes underestimate relationship stress because it feels personal, like something they should just handle. But emotional stress from relationships can be just as draining as physical exhaustion.
And let's not forget the stress that comes from information overload. We are constantly connected to news, social media, notifications, messages. Our brains never truly get a break.
That is a very modern form of stress, and it's growing. Our nervous systems were not designed to process this much information every single day. It's genuinely overwhelming.
So we have work stress, financial stress, relationship stress, and digital overload. That is a lot for one human being to carry, and most people are dealing with more than one of these at the same time.
Which is exactly why understanding stress is the first step. You cannot fix something you do not understand. Once you see it clearly, you can start making choices that protect you.
Beautifully put. Now, let us talk about the signs, because I think many people walk around stressed without recognizing that what they are feeling actually has a name and a cause.
Yes, and stress shows up differently in different people. Some people feel it physically. Tense muscles, a tight chest, frequent headaches, or a stomach that always feels uneasy.
Others feel it emotionally. They become irritable, anxious, or feel a kind of low-level sadness that they cannot quite explain. Things that normally would not bother them suddenly feel very big.
And then there are behavioral signs. Some people start eating more than usual. Others lose their appetite completely. Some sleep too much, others can't sleep at all.
I think one of the quieter signs is when you lose your motivation. You used to enjoy certain things, but now they just feel like tasks. That kind of emotional flatness is often stress in disguise.
That is such an important point. When joy starts to disappear from the things you normally love, that is your mind and body telling you something needs to change.
And difficulty concentrating is another one. You sit down to work or study, but your mind keeps wandering. You read the same sentence 3 times and still do not absorb it.
That happens because stress takes up mental space. Your brain is busy processing all that pressure in the background, so there's less room left for focus and clear thinking.
Okay, so now we have a real understanding of what stress is, where it comes from, and how it shows up in our bodies and behavior. Let us move into the part that I think everyone came for. What do we actually do about it?
Yes, this is where it gets really useful. And I want to say up front that managing stress is not about eliminating pressure from your life. That's not realistic. It's about how you respond to pressure.
That distinction is so important. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can absolutely learn to control how you react to it. That is where real power lives.
The first and perhaps most foundational tool is breathing. It sounds almost too simple, but conscious breathing is one of the fastest ways to calm your nervous system.
Can you explain why breathing works so quickly? Because I think people hear this advice and think it sounds too easy to be real.
When you're stressed, your breathing becomes shallow and fast. This actually sends a signal to your brain that you are in danger, which makes the stress worse. It becomes a cycle.
So by slowing your breathing on purpose, you're essentially sending your brain a different message. You're telling your nervous system that things are safe and under control.
Exactly. A simple technique is to breathe in slowly for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and breathe out for 4 counts. Even doing this 3 or 4 times can create a noticeable shift.
And the beautiful thing about this is that you can do it anywhere. In a meeting, in traffic, before a difficult conversation, no one even needs to know you are doing it.
It's one of those tools that is always available to you. You always have your breath. No equipment, no app, no special environment needed.
The second strategy I want to talk about is something that often gets overlooked, and that is naming your stress. Actually putting words to what you are feeling.
This is backed by a lot of research in psychology. When you name an emotion, when you say, I am feeling anxious right now, or I am feeling overwhelmed, it actually reduces the intensity of that emotion.
It is almost like the stress loses some of its power when you bring it into the light. When it stays unnamed and vague, it feels bigger and scarier than it actually is.
Yes. There is a phrase researchers use, name it to tame it. When you label what you are feeling, your thinking brain becomes more active and your emotional brain becomes less reactive.
So instead of just carrying this heavy, uncomfortable feeling all day, you can pause and ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling right now? What is specifically making me stressed?
And often, when you ask that question honestly, the answer is more manageable than you expected. You might realize it is one specific thing, not your entire life, that is causing the pressure.
That is such a relieving realization, because when stress is vague, it feels like everything is falling apart. But when you identify the source, it becomes a problem with a possible solution.
Exactly. And that shift from everything is overwhelming to this specific thing is stressful is a huge step forward in managing your emotional state.
The third tool is one that I personally find very powerful, and that is physical movement. Exercise, even in small amounts, has an extraordinary effect on stress levels.
When you are stressed, your body produces a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is useful in short bursts, but when it stays high for too long, it creates anxiety, poor sleep, and low energy.
And movement, even a brisk walk, some stretching or dancing in your kitchen, helps burn off that excess cortisol. It's like giving your body a way to physically process the stress.
There's also the release of endorphins during exercise, which are natural mood-boosting chemicals. After even 20 minutes of movement, most people report feeling noticeably calmer and clearer.
And I think the important word you used there is even, because people often think they need a full gym session to get the benefit, but that is not true. Small, consistent movement makes a real difference.
A short walk outside, especially in nature or green spaces, is particularly effective. There's something about being outdoors that helps reset the nervous system in a way that being indoors does not.
I love that. It doesn't have to be complicated. 10 minutes outside, away from screens and noise, can genuinely change the quality of your whole afternoon.
And movement also gives your mind a break from the problem. When your body is active, your brain gets a chance to process things more quietly in the background. Solutions often come during walks, not while sitting and worrying.
That is so true. Some of my best ideas and clearest thinking happen when I'm moving. There's a real connection between physical movement and mental clarity.
Absolutely. The mind and body are not separate systems. What you do for your body directly affects your mental and emotional state, and vice versa.
The fourth strategy is about how you organize your time and your tasks, because a lot of stress comes not from having too much to do, but from not having a clear structure for doing it.
That is such an insightful point. When everything feels urgent and equally important, your brain enters a kind of overwhelm mode. It doesn't know where to start, so it freezes or panics.
And that freeze response often looks like procrastination from the outside. People see someone avoiding work and think they are lazy, but often they are actually just overwhelmed.
So having a clear priority system makes a huge difference. At the start of each day, write down the 3 most important things that must be done. Not 10 things, just 3.
And focus on those 3 before anything else. Once they're done, you've already succeeded for the day. Anything else you accomplish is a bonus.
This approach reduces that feeling of running behind all day. You have a clear target, you hit it, and your brain gets a sense of completion and control rather than endless pressure.
And there is something important about writing things down. When your to-do list lives only in your head, your brain has to constantly hold it in memory, which is tiring and stressful in itself.
Writing it down offloads that mental weight. Your brain no longer has to remember it because it is safely on paper. That simple act frees up mental energy for actual thinking and working.
The 5th strategy is about something called boundaries. And I know that word gets used a lot, but I think it is genuinely one of the most important skills for managing stress in modern life.
Boundaries are basically the limits you set around your time, your energy, and your emotional availability. They are decisions you make about what you will and will not accept in your life.
And the lack of boundaries is a huge source of stress for so many people. Saying yes to everything, taking on too much, never having time that is truly your own, it is exhausting.
Learning to say no is not selfish. It is actually an act of self-respect and self-preservation. You cannot pour from an empty cup, as people often say.
And this applies at work, too. If your workday ends at a certain time, protect that boundary. Not every message or email needs an immediate response at 10 o'clock at night.
Many people feel guilty about this at first. They worry about what others will think or whether they will seem unhelpful. But over time, clear boundaries actually improve relationships because you show up more present and less resentful.
That is a really important insight. When you don't have boundaries, you eventually start to feel resentment toward your work, toward people in your life, even toward yourself. And resentment is stress in disguise.
Exactly. So setting a boundary is not about pushing people away. It's about protecting your energy so you can actually show up fully for the things and people that matter to you.
The sixth strategy I want to explore is the role of sleep in stress management, because I think this one is massively underestimated by most people.
Sleep is when your brain and body do their deepest repair work. During sleep, your brain processes emotions, consolidates memories, and literally clears out waste products that built up during the day.
And when you don't get enough sleep, your stress response becomes hypersensitive. Small problems feel enormous, your patience runs out faster, and your ability to think clearly drops significantly.
Research consistently shows that people who sleep less than 6 hours regularly have much higher cortisol levels. So poor sleep and high stress create a very difficult cycle that feeds itself.
You're stressed, so you cannot sleep. And because you cannot sleep, your stress gets worse. Breaking that cycle is one of the most powerful things you can do for your overall well-being.
A few things that genuinely help with sleep quality include keeping a consistent bedtime, even on weekends. Your body loves routine, and a regular sleep schedule trains your nervous system to wind down at the same time each night.
Reducing screen time in the hour before bed also makes a real difference. The blue light from phones and computers suppresses melatonin, which is the hormone your brain needs to feel sleepy.
And creating a small wind-down routine, even something as simple as making a cup of herbal tea, reading a few pages of a calm book, or doing some gentle stretching, signals to your body that it's time to rest.
These are not complicated changes, but done consistently, they can genuinely transform the quality of your sleep and therefore the quality of how you handle stress the next day.
Sleep is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity, and treating it as a priority rather than something you do when everything else is done is one of the most important mindset shifts in stress management.
The seventh strategy is about connection, the importance of talking to people when you are stressed, not bottling things up, but actually sharing what you are going through.
Human beings are deeply social creatures. We're not designed to carry heavy things alone. When you share a burden with someone you trust, it genuinely becomes lighter.
And I think many people, especially men, are taught to believe that needing support is a weakness. But that belief actually causes enormous damage because it keeps people isolated in their stress.
Vulnerability is not weakness. It is one of the most courageous things a person can do. Saying, "I am struggling and I need someone to talk to," takes real strength.
Even if the other person cannot solve your problem, being heard and understood has a powerful calming effect. It reminds you that you are not alone and that what you are feeling makes sense.
And sometimes just saying something out loud helps you understand it better yourself. The act of putting your experience into words, whether to a friend or even in a journal, can create surprising clarity.
That brings up journaling, which is something I think deserves its own mention. Writing about what you are feeling, not to impress anyone, just honestly for yourself, is incredibly therapeutic.
Research in psychology has shown that expressive writing, where you write freely about your thoughts and emotions, reduces stress, improves mood, and even strengthens the immune system over time.
You do not need to be a good writer. You do not even need to write in complete sentences. Just getting the thoughts out of your head and onto a page creates space and relief inside your mind.
Even 5 minutes of honest writing before bed can help you process the day, release what is weighing on you, and approach sleep with a calmer, clearer mind.
The eighth strategy is something I find fascinating, and that is the practice of gratitude. Not as a feel-good trend, but as a genuine brain training tool for managing stress.
This one surprises people sometimes. When you are stressed, your brain naturally focuses on what is going wrong. It scans for problems and threats. That is actually its default setting.
And gratitude practice deliberately redirects that focus. When you actively look for what is good, what is working, what you appreciate, you are literally training your brain to balance its attention differently.
Studies have shown that people who practice gratitude regularly report lower stress levels, better sleep, more positive relationships, and a greater sense of overall life satisfaction.
And the practice itself is beautifully simple. At the end of each day, think of 3 specific things you are grateful for. Not general things, but specific moments, people, or experiences from that day.
The specificity is important. "I am grateful for my family" is too broad for the brain to engage with deeply. But "I am grateful for the conversation I had with my sister this morning" creates a real emotional response.
And that emotional response is what trains the brain over time. You are not lying to yourself or pretending things are perfect. You are simply choosing to also notice what is good alongside what is hard.
Over weeks and months, this small daily practice genuinely shifts how your brain interprets your life. Stress does not disappear, but your relationship with it changes. You develop more resilience.
The ninth thing I want to talk about is what I call the power of the pause. This is about creating small moments of stillness throughout your day, rather than moving from one task to the next without any break.
Most people treat their day as one long sprint. They go from waking up to notifications, to breakfast, to commute, to work, to more work, to dinner, to screens, to sleep. There's no pause anywhere in between.
And that constant movement without stillness is exhausting. Your nervous system needs regular moments of rest and quiet to reset and recharge, just like a phone battery needs to be charged.
These pauses do not need to be long. Even 2 to 3 minutes of sitting quietly, stepping outside for a moment, or simply stopping what you are doing and taking a few deep breaths can make a real difference.
The key is consistency. One long vacation a year does not undo 11 months of nonstop stress, but small, regular pauses throughout each day genuinely add up to a more balanced nervous system.
Think of it as maintenance rather than repair. You are not waiting until you break down to take care of yourself. You are making small deposits into your well-being every single day.
That is such a powerful way to think about it. Stress management is not something you do in a crisis. It is something you practice daily, so that when difficult moments come, you have the inner resources to handle them.
And I think that brings us to the 10th and perhaps most important idea in this whole conversation, which is about developing what psychologists call a stress mindset.
Oh, I love this concept. Can you explain it? Because I think this one can really change how people think about their relationship with stress entirely.
A stress mindset is basically how you think about stress itself. Research by psychologist Kelly McGonigal found something remarkable, that stress is only harmful when you believe it is harmful.
Which sounds counterintuitive at first, but the research is quite compelling. People who viewed stress as a sign that something important was happening actually performed better and stayed healthier than those who viewed stress as dangerous.
When you see stress as your body's way of preparing you to rise to a challenge, rather than as something destroying you, the physical experience of stress actually changes. Your blood vessels stay more relaxed, and your thinking becomes clearer.
So the same racing heart, the same heightened alertness, depending on how you interpret it, it can either help you or harm you. Your perception is that powerful.
Exactly. You can say to yourself, my heart is beating fast because my body is giving me energy to handle this. That reframe changes the whole experience from threat to preparation.
And this is not about pretending stress does not exist or forcing yourself to feel positive. It is about choosing a more accurate and empowering interpretation of what your body is doing.
Stress often arises around things that matter to you. You are stressed about work because your work matters to you. You are stressed about your family because they are important to you. Stress and meaning often go together.
That is such a beautiful reframe. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this stress, you can ask, what does this stress tell me about what I care about? And how can I use this energy wisely?
That shift from victim to participant changes everything. You are no longer someone to whom stress is happening. You are someone who is actively navigating the pressures of a meaningful life.
I want to also quickly touch on something practical that ties many of these strategies together, and that is having a morning routine. How you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows.
A morning routine does not need to be 2 hours long or perfectly structured, but starting your day with even one intentional act, a few minutes of quiet, a short walk, some journaling, or mindful breathing, creates a sense of control from the very beginning.
When you wake up and immediately reach for your phone, you are starting your day in reactive mode. You are immediately responding to other people's demands, notifications, and news before you have even had a moment to yourself.
Starting with even 5 to 10 minutes that belong only to you, where you are not consuming or reacting, but just being, creates a completely different foundation for the day ahead.
And that foundation matters because stressful things will happen. They always do. But if you have started from a calm and grounded place, you have so much more capacity to handle whatever comes.
It is like the difference between going into a storm well-fed and rested versus going in hungry and exhausted. The storm is the same, but your ability to weather it is completely different.
Absolutely. And I want to address something that I think prevents a lot of people from making these changes, which is the belief that they do not have time for any of this.
This is such a common response. I am too busy to meditate, to journal, to exercise, to pause. But the truth is, if you are too busy to take care of yourself, then you are too busy.
And the other truth is that these things do not take as much time as people think. We are not talking about hours. We are talking about minutes. 2 minutes of breathing, 5 minutes of journaling, a 10-minute walk.
The cumulative effect of small, consistent habits is enormous over time. You do not need to overhaul your entire life. You just need to make a few small, consistent choices that your future self will thank you for.
And one last thing I want to say before we wrap up is about asking for professional help when it is needed. Because sometimes stress reaches a level where self-help strategies are not enough, and that is completely okay.
If stress is significantly affecting your daily life, your relationships, your health, or your ability to function, speaking with a therapist or counselor is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of wisdom and self-respect.
Mental health care is just as important as physical health care. You would not ignore a broken leg and hope it healed on its own. The same logic applies to your mental and emotional well-being.
There is still a stigma around seeking professional help for stress and mental health in many cultures, but that stigma is slowly changing, and the people who reach out are often the ones who recover and grow the fastest.
So if you feel like you need more support than a conversation or a walk can provide, please seek it. There is no shame in that, only courage.
And for those of you who are in an earlier stage of stress, the tools we have shared today are genuinely effective. The key is consistency and self-compassion as you build these habits.
All right, I think we have covered this topic beautifully today. Let us bring it all together. Priya, if you had to give someone just the core message of this entire conversation, what would you say?
I would say that stress is a natural part of life, but it does not have to run your life. When you understand it, recognize its signs, and build daily habits that support your nervous system, you become someone who manages stress rather than someone who is managed by it.
Perfectly said. And the tools are not complicated. Breathing, naming your emotions, moving your body, setting clear priorities, protecting your boundaries, sleeping well, connecting with others, practicing gratitude, creating pauses, and shifting your mindset.
None of these require special equipment, a lot of money, or hours of free time. They require only awareness and the decision to take small, consistent action in the direction of your own well-being.
And I think the most important thing is to start somewhere. You do not have to implement all 10 strategies tomorrow. Pick one that resonates with you and begin there.
One small change, practiced consistently, is worth far more than 10 perfect changes that never happen. Progress is always more valuable than perfection.
To everyone listening, thank you so much for being here today. We are genuinely grateful that you spend your time with us on Easy English Talk Podcast. It means everything.
Yes, thank you. And remember, every episode you listen to is not just helping you manage stress or learn new ideas, it's also helping your English improve naturally through real conversation.
That is the magic of this podcast. You are learning and growing at the same time. And we hope you felt that today in every exchange between Priya and me.
If this episode helped you, please share it with someone who might need it. A friend, a family member, a colleague. Stress affects everyone, and sometimes the most helpful thing you can do is pass something useful along.
And before we go, we just want to remind you that Easy English Talk Podcast has many other wonderful episodes waiting for you. Topics on confidence, communication, emotional intelligence, habits, relationships, and so much more.
Each episode is crafted to help you grow as a person and improve your English at the same time. So explore the channel, find a topic that speaks to you, and keep the conversation going.
We will be back very soon with another meaningful discussion. Until then, take care of yourself, be kind to your mind, and remember, you are more capable of handling life's pressures than you give yourself credit for.
Take good care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode of Easy English Talk Podcast. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye, and stay well.